Hello, and welcome back to Let's Play Betrayal at Krondor. In our last episode, we were given a quest by the Temple of Aortus to put to rest the roaming spirits, the undead Rusalki, who were roaming the River Romney. And we're still in the middle of that quest, and we'll get back to that in a minute. But we've just made it to a town. Let's look at our map really quickly. We have just made it to the town of Sloop, which is right outside of our final destination in this chapter, Romney. We're supposed to make it to the tavern there and meet up with a bunch of kingdom guards who've been looking into this whole Delicon mess, this Moradel invasion. Right, before we get back to that, let's look around this town we found. James knocked on the door. For a long moment, he leaned against the door frame as he waited, positioning himself so he could listen for the sounds of any stirrings inside. When at last it was evident that no one was coming, he stepped back with a shrug. "Doesn't seem that anyone's about," James said. All right, well, there is a building here. Standing in front of the wooden door, James paused to marvel at the construction of the house. Unlike many such houses, this one had apparently been built quite soundly, and out of good materials. He knocked on the solidly built door. A moment later, a large man appeared in the doorway, his sandy-colored hair dancing around on his head thanks to a gentle breeze. "You fellas come about a house? No one builds them better," he said proudly. James took a step back. "We were just admiring the fine job you did. Very nice work. Unfortunately, we're just passing through." They talked to the man for a few minutes, discovered there was a temple on the other side of town, then left. Interesting. I think that was that temple that we saw at the end of the last episode. Yeah, over there in the distance. We'll see that in a little bit. A pretty woman of about 30 answered James's knock. She came to the door holding a leather-bound book. Looking past her into the house, James could see 4 or 5 children of various ages. "I'm afraid you gentlemen are a little old for my classes," she said. Yes. Okay then. Well, we won't disturb you any further. Goodbye, miss." After the door closed, James turned to Gorath and said, "Don't give me that look. Teachers always make me nervous." The shop I believe we looked at in our last episode, it's a jewel shop, which we don't have any jewels right now to sell. We sold them all off at the end of our last episode. That was the... They were greeted warmly. After a friendly chat and a steaming pot of tea, they refused any further hospitality from their host. "You've been more than generous," James said, grabbing his pack, "but I think it's time we made for the road again." I think that's just kind of generic conversation now that we already got the scripted conversation that's there. James pushed the door open. "The place is abandoned," Gorath said, looking around the room. "Maybe the occupants left something behind we can use. Let's have a look." "Ooh, 127 gold? We'll take that for sure." Okay, let's keep looking. Looks like it's nighttime. Let's rest for the evening. James pushed open the door. "Looks like this used to be a temple of some kind," he said. "But it would appear this place was abandoned some time ago." Interesting. Anything behind it or anything? No, it's just an abandoned old temple. Weird. The house was obviously deserted. James thought it would be a good idea to knock. No sooner had his knuckles touched wood than the door swung open freely. He blinked several times as his eyes adjusted to the murky darkness. Doesn't seem to be anything Suddenly, a scrawny ball of fur exploded out of the house, raking Owen painfully across the face. "Damnation!" James cried. "Cat must have been trapped in there for days." He caught his breath, then went over to check on Owen's injury. Okay, I wonder if Owen was actually injured. Let's look at our hit points. Oh my gosh, Owen did take some damage from that. We'll have to rest that up in a little bit. So, beware of cats. Is there anything else in here? No, there's nothing else to do in that house. All right, and then we have this house. The front door of the small house held a crudely made sign which read, "Unusual items for sale." James knocked and waited for someone to answer the door. A tall, shadowy man appeared and ushered them into the house. "You come to buy something, yes?" he asked through crooked yellow teeth. "I guess that depends on what you're selling, friend," Owen replied. They followed the man to a large wooden table. It was covered with about a dozen items. Mostly junk, but one caught James's eye. "Tell me about this piece. Where did you get this?" he asked, picking up a broken medallion that looked as though it had been stepped on more than once. The man eyed them nervously. I found it around here somewhere. Would you like to buy it? He made a half-hearted sales pitch, then seemed almost relieved when his offer was rejected and he was told they had to leave. Turning to Owen, James said, Did you notice the Nighthawk emblem on that medallion? I would say there definitely are, or were, Nighthawks in this area. Huh. Well, the guy also seemed pretty nervous about that. Why would he have the item out for display if he was nervous if anybody noticed it? Or maybe he was expecting, I don't know, something is a little weird. When we know the Nighthawks are around and are working maybe with Delicon, we need to keep our eyes peeled for anything like that. James rapped on the tavern door. When it was apparent no one was coming to open up, James shrugged. Oh, this is the dialogue we've seen before. We have to wait until afternoon. So let's rest until here. James could smell alcohol. Pushing the door of the shop open, he was met by a sharp-faced fellow who was carrying a wooden keg. Quickly dumping it with a pile of other casks, he wiped his hands off on a towel, then extended his hand. Harlan, he said. I'm the brewmaster around here when I'm not hauling things about. And where exactly is here? James replied. This is the Upturned Keg. We're the best brewery this side of the Romney. Would you care to sample some of our stock? We make a dandy apple wine, the proprietor said. I could have some decanted for you. Refusing as politely as he knew how, James shook his head. We have to keep our heads about us, he said. We've a long road ahead, and there's been some trouble around, or so I hear. We'll leave you to get back to your business. Okay, well, no inn, it looks like, in this town. No actual inn, and no shop where we can sell those weapons and armor that are still in our pockets. So before we finish up here, I'm going to show you the map one more time. We are almost to Romney. We will be there momentarily, and that should be the end of the chapter. So before we bring this chapter to an end, I would like to do two things. I'd like to sell off those weapons and armor, and I'd like to put those Rusalki to rest, finish that quest. And I have an idea of how we might be able to do that. So let's get back on the road. While we're at it also, I notice we're getting low on rations, so we're going to want to purchase some more. Ooh, what's this? Something buried in the side of the road. Ah, some more arrows. Can Gorath fit those? He can. Let's give him more. Whoops. Let's give Gorath more arrows. We can always use more of those. And we'll give this ruby to James. On the way back up, we'll sell that ruby off. Because this town, we remember, this town has a jewel shop. Night's falling, and I'm glad for that. Because what I think is... Well, okay, sorry. We need to rest to let Owen heal. Let's do that. I've heard it mentioned that the Rusalki come out at night. Ghosts are more fearsome at night. So I have a good idea about where those Rusalki might be. Where there might be more of them. If you remember, we ran into these gentlemen. They should be up here somewhere. If we keep heading south. Yes, these gentlemen that seem to be guarding something. They seem to be, guarding something or trying to stop people from coming around this area and investigating something. And these inns were taking advantage of the Rusalki being around by jacking up their prices. So I wonder if there's a connection. So let's wait till nightfall. And let's stick to the road and look for any enemies we might find. Yep, here we go. Rusalki, 4 of them. Alright, so before we begin, I want to go ahead and have James go up here to enemies that are closer to Gorath. So Gorath and him can double team these enemies, maybe. Of course, James is going to take a hit. I expected that to happen. And we're going to cast our favorite spell, Skin of the Dragon. Hopefully that should protect James. Meanwhile, Gorath, he's too far away. I don't want to put him up into danger just yet, so let's use our crossbow to at least get a hit off. That's fine if James takes that hit. That's okay. And the first enemy is down. Only 3 to go. Alright, let's cast Skin of the Dragon again on Gorath. Now he can get into the fray. He's still too far away, but he can move closer to where James is. So let's go ahead and attack this one that's within both of their reach. Let's double team these enemies, and hopefully that will allow us to get it done more quickly. We'll thin the herd if we can. It's still going. It still has hit points left. Owen's going to keep resting to regain his stamina, so when he needs to cast again, he can. The second enemy is down. Very good. And we're still well protected. James, go start harrying that one. That'll make her move, because Rusalki, as you may remember, they need to be far away from you to cast that devastating spell. Gorath's going to move a little closer. And yep, she had to move so she can cast this turn. But I'm not going to let her. Oh, and she's done. Alright, let's move Gorath up this way. And James should be able to reach her yet. James has a really good move. He's got a speed of 5, so he's got a wonderful movement radius. Far better than what Gorath can do, unfortunately. Gorath has a speed of only 3. But that's sufficient to reach this enemy here. Yeah, she had to resort to a melee attack. And we were successful. That was the end of it. Let's take a look at our hit points. Yeah, I'm not happy with that. So let's rest till morning. And then rest until night once again. And now let's see if there's any more Rusalki to deal with. Gorath stopped and stared off in the distance. After several seconds of contemplation, he turned and began to speak. The hair on the back of my neck is telling me that something is out there, something evil. If we don't turn back now, I would suggest that we at least proceed with great caution. Notice that's different than the normal scouting message we get. This something, normally it's, notice where somebody's watching us or somebody might be hiding. This is something evil is out there. That's our Rusalki that we're looking for, and our scouting ability has increased. Alright. 3 remaining. Let's go ahead and take care of them. James, go right into the middle here. Unfortunately, it was a miss. Let's go ahead and protect James with Skin of the Dragon as usual. It's really becoming our favorite spell here. It's so useful. Neither of these are close enough for Gorath, so let's spend a turn using our crossbow until Gorath is safe. James will continue harrying the same one from before. And now Owen will cast Skin of the Dragon on Gorath, and he can begin his journey into the fray, as it were. Alright, so go ahead. James, attack this one that's closer to Gorath. And Gorath will do the same. Well, no he won't, because they're too far away. Alright, let's... A good hit. And it moves right up into Gorath's melee range. And between Gorath and James, it was quickly defeated. Okay, let's try this one. A good solid hit. And another hit. And the enemy is still going. Okay, we need to rest again. Yeah, when they freeze like that, when the animation freezes, you know that the enemy's been defeated. It's a little too far away for Gorath to reach, so he'll just move a little closer. Alright, I think it is in Gorath's reach now. Yes. But we missed again. Good 73%. That's awesome. See, I noticed James's accuracy is only 57%. We really need to work on his melee abilities. I don't think it has anything to do with his stamina being down, because he still has some stamina. James just isn't as good a fighter as Gorath is. But he makes up for it with having a better mobility. Oh, I noticed that our spell wore off, but we should be okay as long as we can stay within melee range. The Rusalki prefer to use that long-range spell when they can. Alright, it should be almost dead at this point. And the enemy is down. We've done it. I think that's all of them. Let's take a look at our stats really quickly. Yeah, since the last time we checked, our weapons craft, our defense, our melee, everything has gone up here. Owen's scouting from that last time when we saw the enemies, as well as Gorath's. His crossbow accuracy continues to increase. And let's go ahead and repair our weapons while we're here. James's sword is still in really good shape. Gorath's is not too bad. And I don't believe we Any of the damage that we take from your Salki can be repaired? Oh, okay. Never mind. I was wrong. Gorath does not have an armorer's hammer. We're going to have to purchase one for him soon. Okay. Let's go ahead and rest for the night. Let's heal up once again. And let's begin heading south back towards the Temple of Aortus. There shouldn't be any enemies now between us and that location, so it should be just a really easy trip. In fact, yeah, here we are. We'll have to spend another 30 gold to get to the temple. But let's go talk to the priestess. James motioned to the figure across the room. The woman nodded and made her way across the wooden floor until she was standing before them. I have been expecting you for many days. My auguries have shown strangers that walk in the favor of Aortus. I assume that you must have completed your rites. It had very little to do with ritual, High Priestess, and much more to do with slaying spirits. You sound somewhat distressed. Be assured that you have slain no one, but have freed those from this world which were unnaturally bound here. The Swimmer of the Deeps is pleased and has allowed I may grant you a boon. So long as you all shall live, any of you that come and petition before me shall be healed of anything that ails you. Such is the nature of Aortus's favor. Have any of you the need of healing? Well, let's say yes, and I think some of our injuries may be beyond my ability to heal. What do we need to do? You will find that your ills already heal as we speak. You shall feel fully restored by the time the Mist Devil returns you to Sildon. So awesome. So anytime that we need healing, we can come back here and get it at this temple. It's a shame that this temple doesn't have a mandala, because that would make this a little too easy to just be able to warp here whenever we wanted to. Alright, while we're here, we can't replenish our food supplies here. If you remember, they sell spoiled rations. Yeah. Can we bard again? No, we've tapped out their entertainment fund. And I believe the shop here only sells magical items. I do still want to come back here eventually. If we determine that we need some better spells, we'll come back here. Alright, so the last thing I'd like to do before we finish up going to Romney is sell off these weapons and armor, and I have a good idea of where we can go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and head back westward. Notice that Gorath has no rations left. That's not going to be good for him overnight, so let's hand one of James's rations off to him. That way, at least he has something to eat this evening. You'll notice that our hit points are maxed out. You can't normally get that from resting. We were not maxed, but our little adventure of the temple gave us full hit points. Let's rest for the night. We used up that last ration. We'll have to give Gorath another one. Although we're down to only one ration with James and Owen. We're going to start starving if we can't find food very quickly. Fortunately, I believe we should make it very soon to the town of Lytton. In fact, there it is. If you remember Lytton, that was where we kept running into those ruffians who wouldn't let us in without the suits of armor. Let's go ahead and purchase some food from the bar here. We'll give 14 to James, 14 to Owen, and 14 to Gorath. Now we're in good shape. Now, as far as selling off our weapons and armor, there is a shop not too much further along the road. Near the town of Sethanon, if you remember, Nia has her general store. Let's rest for the night. Before we head over there, I believe... Yeah, there's a couple last things we can steal here. A good ration. Let's give that to Gorath. And this guy also has a sword we can take. Is there room for that crossbow? No, unfortunately not. Alright, and we'll sell these off. We should be almost to Nia's shop. It should be coming right up here. There's where that rapscallion who stole the body was, who stole the hand originally. Alright, and Nia's shop should be right there. Okay, let's sell off this extra weapons and armor that we've collected. Alright, Gorath has the best elven armor right now. I say that because I noticed James is only 80%. So let's sell that one. And we'll give this one to James. So we got 95, 100, and 96. That's wonderful. Sell that one off. Sell this sword. I don't see any other weapons or armor here. Or here. That looks good. We'll keep these crossbow bolts. Apparently Gorath did have a armor's hammer. I just was not seeing it. And how many uses does it have left? His has 14. His has 23. Plenty of uses left on our whetstones. Very good. I only checked that because I wanted to see if she maybe sells whetstones, but she doesn't sell those here, so. Alright, there really seems to be nothing now between us and the town of Romney. So let's go ahead and just head over there. We're going to just follow the road. We're going to have to rest a couple times probably. It's going to take us a few days to get there. But we've got full hit points and nothing to stop us. Hopefully. We always want to keep our eyes open. There could be surprises, but... Okay, that's Lytton. We should be coming up near Sildon soon. In fact, here's a little road that leads off that side trail. Let's take that for the shortcut to where the road meets here. Now we can keep heading back north. Let's rest for the night. I don't think there was anything in this here. Spoiled ration. No, we don't want that. There's the guys who were guarding the Rusalki haunts. They were somehow responsible for all of this. Alright, this is the... Keep out one. I'm still not sure what that was all about. It said keep out, and there was really nothing there. Maybe something at night. I don't know. Maybe something we'll run into later. And here is the town of Sloop. Let's go back into town so we can sell off that gem. Where is the shop? There it is. Another 136. That's worth it. Especially if we're going to want to be buying spells later. Alright, let's head to the road. Oh, but it's getting to be nighttime, so let's get to the road and then we're going to rest there. Alright. So now we're in unexplored territory, so we're going to want to keep our eyes out for any potential enemies. There's a house here. Another abandoned house. Ooh, 11 gold and a sword. We'll go ahead and take that. Just keeping my eyes open for anything that might show up. Oh! Okay, there's some people there. Some enemies. Let's try to get the drop on them. Their attack was unexpected. Eyes wide with surprise, the enemy scrambled around helplessly. Not wanting to waste their momentary advantage, James barked several quick orders, and the battle was joined. Alright, we got 5 enemies here. Let's take care of this Buccaneer guy first. Oh, it's so nice to not be fighting Rusalki and undead monstrosities anymore. James is probably the most at risk here. So let's go ahead and cast Skin of the Dragon on him. And then we'll see what happens. Gorath's okay right now. Oh, a single hit. Yeah, enemies downed with... Well, James did wound him first, I guess. Yeah, notice James is surrounded here. Gorath, go after that same guy that just hit James. Or that James just hit, I should say. Yeah, that way we're thinning the field here. Oh, he's going. That one guy's going after Owen. So Owen, go after that guy. And Gorath as well. Triple team. And the third enemy is down. Oh, he's got a crossbow, but he missed. Owen, take care of him. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. That's all right. James, move a little bit further out of the way to pull that guy away from those bodies. How dare you attack Owen, sir? Gorath, give him what for? Wow, this guy's hard to hit. Oh, and he's doing some damage to Owen. But he's down. Owen, rest for a turn, gain a little bit of stamina back, and Gorath's going to start heading up towards that other enemy. And the enemy is down. Alright, we've got 5 bodies to search. Hopefully we can carry all of this stuff. Let's start with this one. Oh my goodness, 17 gold, a key, some more crossbow bolts. Those will combine with the 14 we have there. So that won't take up any more inventory space. Oh, before we do this, let's repair our armors and weapons like we always do. Our armors and weapons. Let's do that. James's is alright, but Owen took some hits, so let's hand that off to Gorath. There we go, and hand that back to Owen. Alright, while we're at it, let's take this armor, take this sword, and we could always use with another whetstone. Let's try to repair that, and repair that. We'll hand it off to Owen to hold. Okay. We'll check our abilities in a little bit. More food. Good food, so we'll hand that off to James. Perfect. More crossbow bolts. That'll fit. We'll leave the 3 behind. We don't need that many of those. We're not using Serrani bolts a lot, honestly. More armor. Another sword. Let's repair that. Keep increasing our repairing abilities. And we'll hand these ones off to James. Okay, that's all we can fit. I'll leave the crossbow there. And our abilities increased again. Let's get this other body over here. Nope, that's the same one. It's trying to get the same one. Sometimes it's hard when bodies are laying right up against each other. So we're going to have to go on the other side of this. Like this. Alright, there we go. Alright, we're running out of room very quickly here. Alright, now let's go back to the road and we'll continue what we were doing. Alright, so 1, 2, 3. Alright, now this is the 4th and 5th body here. 2 more buccaneers. 11 gold. Spoiled rations, unfortunately, but some good crossbow bolts. And a larger crossbow, a medium crossbow at 59%. It's not as good as the ones we have, so we don't have to worry about that. Gorath can still take a sword to repair. But there's also elven armor, so I'd like to take the good sword. Hand off the kingdom... we'll hand off 2 kingdom swords, because they're not going to get that much money. Kingdom swords aren't worth all that much. Certainly not compared to elven armor. There we go. And then the last body, let's turn around here. There we go. Ooh, an herbal pack. Let's see if Owen can carry that one. We could still certainly use more crossbow bolts, so we can fit as many as we can. We won't bother with the kingdom armor. We'll hand off this kingdom armor just so we can have a chance to repair this one, just for the stat boost. It's not as good as the other one, so we'll hand that back. And the Mortal Lamprey will just end up leaving. Actually, I'll give it to James for... Nope, I'll give it to Gorath. I like Gorath being my armorer here. I like having Gorath take care of this stuff. There we go. And this note. Crawler, the seals are perfect. We should have no trouble getting into Romney with these. Too much activity to store them here, though. Moved the whole lot to a barn outside Lytton. Paid a gold-grubbing farmer to watch over them. As you may remember, that's where we found this glacier seal. Apparently, those are necessary to get into the town of Romney. So we have to hold on to that. But we don't need this note anymore, so we'll get rid of that. And we'll hand off... Let's hand the torches to Owen. And we'll give... That way he can take that back. There we go. Alright, so that's all the bodies. Let's look at our stats now. Gorath's weapons craft is up to 80%. His armor craft is 67. That's wonderful. Even James's one up there. And his melee accuracy to 48. Gorath's casting accuracy went to 79. We're in good shape. That's great. All right, let's take a look at these holes in the ground that they were guarding. More money and a useless sword, honestly. We don't need a kingdom sword like that. But what we will do is we'll repair it. Get the stat boost. Get the stat boost at least. And then someday someone else will come along looking for a sword, not having one, and they'll find a wonderfully repaired one just stuck in the dirt. It's our little way of paying it forward. 2 rations. That's good for sure. Let's see how we're looking here. He has 13, he has 14, and he has 11. Let's give one of these. There we go. And there was also, what was that? 2 swords? We don't need them. All right, I think that was everything. I think there were just 2 holes there, it looks like, and some enemies. I don't see any boxes or chests that they were guarding. That seems to be it. All right, let's continue on our way. Hopefully Romney has a place that we can sell this stuff off. All right, well, there's a little side road here. Let's see what's here. Another little house. There was something very strange about the house. James couldn't put his finger on it, but the house had a dreamlike feel. Or was it nightmare? He barely remembered knocking on the door, but he was sure no one had answered. That's weird. I don't know what that means. We're still okay. Our hit points haven't been affected. Like, James is still maxed out. Weird. Anything around behind the house or anything? Oh. A special lock. That means it's a mortal lock chest. Another riddle for us to solve. They go up white, but come down yellow and white. 4 letters. Alright, this seems pretty obvious to me. I'm not sure if it's as obvious to everyone else, but what's something that if you let it drop, easily breaks? It's white, but when it breaks, well, there's yellow. And then you have yellow and white. You've probably already guessed it. Eggs. What do we got in here? Oh my, okay. 100 gold first off. A spell. The Fetters of Rhyme. Well, we definitely need a spell. So let's just hand this off real quick. We'll take this spell and we'll read it. Now Owen has a new spell. We'll take back that poison. And 100% Blessed Rapier. Now the Rapier does 25 base damage with a 20 accuracy. How does that compare to this? $20 and a 10. 2010. Sorry. Yeah, only a 20, 10, 45, -5, right? The only difference is that Keshian Tapir has a much better swing stat, but I never use the swing. It's so inaccurate. It's way more accurate than James's current weapon, but it also has a racial mod for elves, so maybe Gorath could use it. Let's check his sword. 29 and 15, so not quite as good. Let's go ahead and give it to James for now. Let's discard one of these Kingdom Swords. Kingdom Swords are, at this point, pretty useless. Hand off this Mortal Lamprey to Owen. Let's see how James does with it if his accuracy in battle goes up at any. Even though he's not an elf and can't gain the bonuses for it, it might work better for him just because of the better stats. All right, let's head back towards the road. Now that it's nighttime, I'm curious. Does anything at this house happen at night? No, that same message there. Let's rest until the morning. All right. Let's keep our eyes open because we don't have a whole lot of... our hit points are not in the best shape. James pushed the door open. As he passed through, he noted the lack of a door latch. A sign the inn was likely chartered by the local lord to ensure the safety of travelers. Hopefully it would also mean the inn's furnishings would be suitable. All right, we got an inn. We could buy more food if we needed to here, so that's good to know. Let's talk to the people. This is one of the same messages we've seen before, just somebody doesn't want to talk to us. The same message again. Here's the inn. If we wanted to stay the night, it's only 3 sovereigns. That's not bad. Let's stay the night and get some good hit points recovery. Alright, very good. Before we leave, let's see if there's anything else to look at in here. I don't see anything else. Before we leave, let's try barding. Owen played. Losing himself in the flow of the music, he occasionally mangled a note or two, but on the whole did justice to this Kingdom Mine, the only tune he knew by heart. That was nice, the tavern keeper said with a smile, handing Owen 21 sovereigns. You'll have to play for us again sometime. It still doesn't sound that good. But we're getting better. And we're making money for it. I can't complain. And our party's barding ability increased. Let's take a look at that. Gorath's barding increased to 12%. Okay, it would be nice if Owen's increased more. Well, now we're in really good shape, so let's continue on our way. We're almost to Romney. We should be right up on it. In fact, I see a crossroads here. That's gotta be it. In fact, I see a sign. Romney, we've made it to our destination. There's a bridge waiting there. The way ahead was blocked. From among the men who were guarding the bridge, a man stepped forward to confront them. It's Mitchell Waylander. The city of Romney is sealed at the moment to all but the citizens and those who are members of the Glaziers Guild. Do you have one of our seals? Yes. Why is the guild in charge of the city? The constabulary were all killed in the uprising by the River Pullers Guild, and no one else in any authority was left alive to administrate. When I was approached to take command, I decided I would use my men in the guild to help maintain order until such a time as the Duke was able to arrive from his estates. Oh my, so there was an uprising. And they killed off everyone in charge, so they're waiting on the Duke to show up and kind of restore order. Makes some sort of sense. Where can we find the Kingsmen from Bastira? They'll be holding up in the Black Sheep Tavern for a celebration of some kind. I believe I heard one of them say they found something they were looking for. I'm not sure what it's all about. I think that may mean good news for us as well. Good night, Reeve. We're on into Romney. Well, that's good news. That means that the guys we're waiting on, that we're supposed to meet, found what they were looking for. We'll go meet them at the Black Sheep Tavern and hopefully find the information that Arutha needed. Let's head into the town. Romney. Known as a city of guilds, Romney's cobblestone streets were knotted, a labyrinth of closes and winds, often leading nowhere or into blind alleys populated by disreputable-looking drinking establishments. Only the dark main street called the Murky Mile seemed at all inviting to visitors to the strange town. Let's see, we have a building here we can enter, a shop, a well, the tavern. We'll go there last, because that's probably going to finish the chapter. What's in here? The water was fresh. Slurping down several handfuls drawn from the well, James splashed his face and arms as well for good measure. When at last he felt truly refreshed, he moved away from the bucket so that Owen could do the same. What about the shop here? Oh, it's a weapons shop. Let's sell off all our extra weapons and armor. Let's see, our current armor, this is not as good as it, so we'll sell it. Yeah, see how much more? We got 17 versus only 3 for that. Same thing, mortal lampreys sell for a good 8 as compared to a kingdom sword, which I don't even think we have one to sell yet. I should probably eventually get rid of some of these if I'm not going to use them, you know. I want to keep the restoratives for emergency situations, but... Okay, let's sell this. We're going to hold on to this Keshian sword until we figure out which one's better. If this really is better for James, then we will eventually get rid of this. I wonder, will they buy these? It's not worth selling right now. Let's hang on to it. Alright, let's see if the shop sells anything we can use. If they sell another... No, they don't sell armors, hammers, or whetstones. They do have gray tower plate, and I'm not sure how that differs. I'm almost tempted to buy a set. Because I could check the armor mod, you know? I notice it's more expensive. It's a lot of money, but we have a lot of money, so let's go ahead and try to haggle it down. No, we'll have to pay it for $750. Let's look at it. Sorry, I meant to click that. 40%. Well, let's go. I'm not going to be able to afford to buy several sets of this, but let's go ahead and give it to Owen. Since he's our spellcaster and we need to keep him safe, we'll keep that. Meanwhile, we'll give this 99% armor to Gorath to switch out for his 95. And we'll sell the 95. There we go. Meanwhile, we can repair our items. The shopkeeper whistled. Cringing at the sound, James glanced up to see what bargain the keeper wished to call their attention to, but instead it seemed the man was calling to someone else. "I didn't mean to startle you," the man said, "just trying to find if my mender is still about today." "You have a tinker in your employ," James said. "Sometimes, when he chooses to show up," the shopkeeper said amiably. "He can fix nearly anything. Crossbows, armor, swords, you name it. And his work looks like brand new. Would you like to speak to him?" Yeah, let's go ahead and fix our stuff all the way up. So this one's okay. Only 11 to fix, let's do it. This one's okay. This one's okay. This never takes damage. Only 2 to fix, because they're all in good shape. Only 3. And can he fix crossbows? Alright, for 40, no, we're not going to bother with that, because we can always buy that stuff to fix it. Buy that oil that helps, or we find new strings all the time on the ground in enemy encounters, so or we can always swap out for better ones. So we won't get that repaired. But that's pretty good. Alright, let's try entering this building. The meeting hall was full. Assembled in the room were a dozen grizzled-looking men, all seated around a long table at the head of which sat a young man sporting a goatee. As they entered, a servant quickly pointed them to a bench off to the side, indicating that a meeting of some import was underway. "I don't care what Mitchell Waylander may or may not be doing," the bearded man said sternly. "I am the Duke of Romney, and you will do as I request, else I will call up others from Bastira. Do you really wish to call King Liam's attention to this matter?" Unsettled by the vigor with which the young duke made his point, the various guild leaders shifted in their seats. One, a tremendously overweight man whose clothes tested their seams, leaned forward, careful not to spark too much of a response. "It is entirely possible that the leader of the River Pullers was assassinated by the leader of one of the other guilds here. It's even possible he sits in this room with us. If you have someone in mind, Botho, why don't you simply come out with a name?" another man replied, leaning across the table to grab the obese guildmaster's shirt. "Talk, you overweight cat's innard! Enough! Slamming down the tankard of ale which sat at his right hand, the Duke turned his piercing blue eyes on all who assembled. I want peace on the Romney, and I wish it today. The fact that the Ironmongers Guild will not come to the negotiations table is irrelevant. If I hear another word of a possible uprising in Romney, I swear to you I shall make each and every one of you pay for it. Having heard enough of the heated words in the chamber, James turned and whispered to his companions. If Arutha were here, he'd have this lot at the gibbet for even thinking of open rebellion. The fact of the matter is that Prince Arutha is not here, the Duke replied tersely, evidently having overheard the whispering, and I will not deal so cavalierly with those who are as much my family as my serfs. Snapping his fingers, he motioned to a pair of guards who stood mute behind him. Sergeant Yearly, see to it that these gentlemen are let out, seeing as how they yearn to get to a part of the world where Prince Arutha rules. Yikes. So there's a lot of tension going on in this town, and... Whew. Can we go back in there? Guards halted them. Remembering the large sergeant of arms, James backed away quickly. I don't believe the Duke cares for your company, Yearly said. Now turn around and move away before Captain Anselm and I have to turn you into river chaff. Yikes. Okay, so, well, that's that. Let's go meet the guys in the tavern and find out what they found. Even as they threw the door open, James bit back the impulse to vomit. Kingdom soldiers lay scattered about the room, each lying in his own coagulating pool of blood. Nowhere did there appear to be anyone untouched by murderous hands. Oh no, everyone is dead. Chapter 3: The Spyglass and the Spider. The coppery smell of burning flesh filled the air. Embers leapt from the funeral pyre into the growing dusk, joined the winking points of light that would later become a blaze of crystalline stars. Around the flames, villagers gathered in dark clots, their faces overwritten with blank, unreadable expressions. Like moths to a candle, they drifted near, and mourned and thought and sniffed. They had come to watch the flames feed. Gorath's fathomless green eyes nictitated in the firelight as he turned and gazed at Owen, who flinched uncomfortably at his side. There can be no uneasier sleep than a warrior murdered in his cups, Gorath said, his voice only slightly louder than the spitting hiss of the scorched bone. They nipped at the heels of the Nighthawks, be certain of that. So you think we're getting close? Owen asked. Gorath began to speak, but his words congealed on his lips as his eyes locked with the burning gaze of Senor James. I've had it with your mysterious half-answers, Moradel. Now, for the sake of your continued good health, I want to hear some explanations fast why you were here in Romney a 6 month before you made your appearance at the Inklendel Pass. The only explanation, Senor, is that you are mistaken. I have never been south of the Inklendel. While we carried the dead from the Black Sheep Tavern, a tavern boy informed me that a man answering to your description called on 3 unwholesomes dressed in black, all of whom wore the trademark silver rings of the Nighthawks. He heard them refer to the Mortel as Gorath. It seems this Mortel paid a sizable sum of money to those Nighthawks before departing, enough perhaps to arrange the death of a company of the king's soldiers. He may well have paid a king's death, but I know nothing of it. I realize it may impress little upon you, but Gorath is a passing common name in the Northlands, and oft as not your kingdom fellowfolk have mistaken me for an elf. The barkeeper was likely deceived by enemies of mine. If I had cause to mislead you or your prince, I would have found a far less convoluted means of confusing the royal sanity. Look elsewhere for your enemies, James. While we may not be friends, I mean you no harm. I shall look where I wish until you are no longer my responsibility. We may not be able to strike at the Nighthawk's stronghold, but if we can locate it, we may still be able to get inside and find the information Prince Arutha needs. The Nighthawks will shun Romney for a time. However bold they may be in their murderous nights, they flee when daylight breaks. No one walks without leaving footprints, and these men are no different. However skilled they may be at assassination, they have never been any good at covering their tracks. Let me see those things you found in the tavern. They are here. Good. Those are our footprints. Of all the items we found on the dead company, Both those items seem conspicuously out of place, and may be related in some way to our elusive murderers. We begin our hunt for the Nighthawks with a spider and a spyglass. Chapter 3, The Spyglass and the Spider. Solve the mystery of the spyglass and the spider. Alright, so... They were shown into a room. Seated cross-legged in a large wooden chair, Duke Romney was staring at a large lumpy form which was heaped on top of the meeting table, his youngish features obviously clouded by some issue of great concern. "What's under the sheet?" James asked. "Botho Chandler," the Duke replied grimly. "They found him in the alleyway and have dropped him off here until the Undertakers can come for him." "Murdered?" The Duke sighed. "Fortunately, it's no great mystery. He was fighting with the leader of the Millers Guild and got cornered by 3 mercenaries. We have them all in custody. Things have gotten so bad here that we're regularly building a bonfire to burn the bodies from this idiot private war between the guilds." "Any way we can be of assistance?" James asked, taking a glance beneath the sheet at the obese corpse. "We may be in the area for some while." Drumming his fingers on the table, the Duke stared intently at them. "Actually, you may be of service to me," he said after a thoughtful moment. "If I can convince Arlie Steelsoul to come into negotiations with the rest of the guilds, it's possible I can break this deadlock between them. My father always said the guilds will follow Mitchell Waylander and Arlie Steelsoul whichever way they go, but unfortunately Mitchell is too intertwined in the origins of this problem for me to use him effectively." "Where do we fit into this?" James asked. "You're neutral," he replied, gaining his feet. "You were born outside of Romney and you have no connections to the guilds. I am right about that, aren't I?" Quickly, an anxious look flickered in his eyes, but quickly vanished as he noticed that James was shaking his head. "Excellent. My point being, as the Duke, the guilds might view a private meeting between myself and Arlie as unfair negotiation. They have to believe that he's coming to the negotiation table of his own free will, and believe me, they will be watching my movements for a while." "So you want us to find this Arlie Steelsoul fellow and convince him to come and negotiate with the rest of the guilds, is that it?" James asked. "Just so," the Duke replied. "You will find that he has a small house to the west and south of here. I would advise you, though, he is a paranoid man. He keeps himself well guarded and there may be some danger involved. I will reward you for your efforts, of course." "That's all right," James said with a smile, heading towards the door. "We're used to danger." "I have an idea of where that house might be. Remember that house we found that was mysterious and we couldn't seem to remember going into it or not? I wonder if that has anything to do with this. Either way, let's go to the tavern. Let's just go ahead and shore up and sleep for the night." Alright, here's a gambler. Let's not gamble. This is the same conversation we've had several times. The barmaid has rashes that are way overpriced. We're not going to purchase food here. James motioned to the figure across the room. The boy walked over to join them. He stood before them, eyes downcast. Are you going to take me away?" "Why should we want to do that?" "Because when I broke things, Master always told me that someone would come and take me away someplace bad and someplace dark where they'd never feed me and I'd never see the light of day. I knew when all those people got killed in here that someone would come for me and take me to the bad place." "You don't have anything to be afraid of, Jason. You didn't kill those men. It's not your fault." "Master says anybody that stays under our roof is our responsibility, and I was here when they were killed. That means it's my fault." "Then you saw the murders." "No, but they come in and they told me to leave or they'd hurt me real bad. They didn't tell me what they were going to do." "What did the men who told you to leave look like?" "They were big and they had birds on their chests, like eagles, and they smelled funny, like sometimes the sailors from Kesh smell like flowers." "Hawks on their chests. That at least confirms the Nighthawks' involvement. Do you know anything about a spider made of silver or a brass spyglass that one of the men that were killed might have carried? It's very important. Think hard." I don't know anything about the spider, but I remember that one of the king's men had a brass tube with little pieces of glass in the ends of it, and I could see things that were far away with it. He said that he and one of the other men had brought it back from Silden." "Did he say where in Silden he got it?" "No, just in Silden." "Can you think of anything else? Did anyone else come into the Black Sheep before the murderers?" "A carrying man brought in some wine from the upside-down keg for the soldiers, told me it was sent special. But besides that, I can't think of anything." Thanks, Jason. We may be back later to ask you more questions, so don't go anywhere. Huh, okay. Well, while we're here, let's try to bard. Owen struggled with the lute. As soon as he began to play, he felt he was not so much playing a song as he was wrestling a beast 100 times his size. Numerous times the song eluded him, slipped out of his reach, only to fall into an obscure pit of noise. Out, 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 the tavern keeper urged, yanking the lute from Owen's hands. Be glad this crowd isn't in a worse mood. Give them time to calm down and then you can come back, but only if you're coming back for food. Well, we didn't do too well there. Alright, well, that seems to be all we can do in the town of Romney. Let's head back out. Our barding ability increased, though, from that. Let's take a look. James is up to 35, Owen's up to 48. Gorath didn't get any benefit that time. Alright, let's rest for the morning so we... Oh. Someone's nearby, it looks like. I can't see because it's nighttime. Oh, gosh. We're not even in the road. Gosh. Okay, there we go. Let's get to the road. And let's head back southwards, out of the way. Okay, now that takes us to Romney. Let's head back to the crossroads and then head westward, away from the town. There we go. Now we can rest till morning. All right, so let's look at our inventory for just a moment. We now have a silver spider. With the exception of its carnelian tinged fangs, the miniature spider glinted a deadly silver hue. On its underbelly, a long, shallow groove bisected its length and passed between its fangs, a groove through which a sword blade or an arrow point could be easily passed. In other words, this probably contained some kind of poison that we could apply to an arrow or a sword. Ooh. What about that spyglass? Sorry, I meant to click on the spyglass. A brass spyglass, a relatively simple device. The spyglass was a cylinder of brass fitted with a large glass lens on one end and another smaller lens on the opposite end. While spyglasses were used to spot distant objects, James suspected this one had been rendered useless by the cracks in the larger lens. Okay. So we have a mystery on our hands. All of the men we were sent to meet were murdered by the Nighthawks. We do have two leads, though. One, we know that spyglass was obtained in the town of Silden. If we head back to Silden, we might be able to find something out about where that spyglass was obtained. Also, we need to go talk with that one guild guy. I don't remember his name, but I know his house is very close by. So if we head over there, we might be able to deal with this ongoing unrest in the town of Romney. So we have a mystery, but we have some ways forward, and that's what we'll be exploring in our next episode. In our next episode, we're investigating the mystery of the spyglass and the spider. I'll see you then.